me tell you guys my testimony in starting my business a year and 3 months ago. I started my business. And in starting my business, coming out of corporate America for 20 years and starting my own business, I had worked on transitioning myself out 3 years prior. I knew I was going to eventually leave and start my business. So I started my exit strategy 3 years before I left. So I'm working on my exit strategy, and I'm getting coaches to help me through certain processes, which was the best thing I ever could have done, was to get help before I totally stepped out. So I'm learning all these different things, and I mean, it's phenomenal. I joined a couple of mastermind groups, and the women there were phenomenal, guided me in a lot of different areas that was going to help me with my business. And I still was working, and what was funny is I would get to a mastermind group, everybody was entrepreneurs. I was still working a corporate job, so I wasn't an entrepreneur yet. And at first I felt like I didn't belong. You know, on Sesame Street, which one of these things are not like the other? That's what I felt like when I was in there. It's like, Becky, you're doing something else. But I had to tell myself, this is where you belong. You got to learn what they have to offer. And you have something you can offer them that they might not know. So I did that and started to work on building my business. Transition in August of last year was my August 1st. I was on my own, had left the company. I was out there. And what's even funny about it, I left, I gave my notice in July, and August 1st I left. Now my plan, my exit strategy was to leave March of the following year. 2013 is when I was planning to leave, because I had allotted money for checks and what I was going to do, and this is what I was going to say. So I had a whole plan. But I had surgery. I had surgery December the 29th of 2011. And I was in surgery. I came home on January 1st of 12. And 3 days later, I was rushed back to the emergency room. I wasn't feeling well, so it was 6 days after my surgery. I fainted at home, and my husband, oh, Lord, you got to go to the hospital. And he's like, I can't do nothing for you. So when I fainted, that changed everything. We rushed back to the hospital. We get there at 11 o'clock at night. And when we get there, I'm feeling worse and worse. And I had abdominal surgery, so my stomach just kept getting bigger. And I was like, it's supposed to go down. I had been internally bleeding for 6 days. From the day of the first surgery till I got back in, I was internally bleeding. Get into the emergency room, and there's a lady that, I mean, when they bring me in on the stretcher, it's 6 other stretchers ahead of me. My first thought was, Lord, I can't sit in this waiting room and have to wait for them to get to me. Something's not going right in my body. And so there's a lady that walks by, and she sees me. She's a nurse, and she stopped, and she looks at my husband. She said, have she been checked in yet? He said, no. She said, take her over to room 11. They wheel me out of the line of other people, take me over to the other room, and she comes in there, and she started doing all these things. She's the head nurse. And she's doing all these things. She said, oh, something is going wrong with her. My husband is looking at me, and all I can do is just kind of look at his face and pray. So I'm looking at his face, and his face is like, it's not good. The lady is like, she's losing blood. She's losing blood. And so they do come in and do another test, and it's like, yeah, my stomach is full of, because I was full of blood. The doctor had left one of my ovaries open, and so it was leaking blood for 6 days. And so they said, we need to get her prepped right now and get her in the emergency room, because if we don't, within the next couple of hours, she's not going to make it. So they cut my clothes off of me, rushed me to the emergency room, and do the surgery. The next morning, when I opened up and it was a ceiling, I said, this ain't heaven. This ain't heaven. I'm still here. I'm still here. Thank you, Lord, I'm still here. But then I was like, oh my God. I was off of work for 3 months. When I went back to work, the 3 months that I was off just really communed with God. It's like, you have me here for something, and I want to work in it. I want to do whatever it is I need to do. And so I went back to work, and like I said, my plan was March to leave. And I was leaving in March because we get bonuses in February. I'm going to leave before my bonus. So I'm like, no, I'm going to leave in March because I have my bonus check, and then I'll leave. If I leave before my bonus check, I don't get my bonus check. So I'm like, I done worked hard this whole year. I'm staying to my bonus check. And so I went back to work, and a couple of months after being at work, and I had said, okay, I started writing training programs, started putting things together to start helping businesses. And everything I was putting together was about people. How do you help people to be better? And I get to work, and one day I have a sit down with my boss, and he says to me, Becky, there are only two things important to the organization: sales and profit. That is it. If you're not getting sales and you're not getting profit, there's going to be a problem. He was new to the company. He had only been there a year. I've been there 15 years. So I'm like, oh, he telling me something. Okay. All right. 2 weeks later, I gave my notice. And I gave my notice in July. It was a little nudge from God saying, you ain't leaving next year. It's time to go now. And I was like, but I gotta put I got my money signed. I already have a plan of how I'm gonna do this. You need to go now. I pushed back and said, no, I'm not gonna leave right now. And the more I pushed back, the worse it got at work. And I was like, Lord, okay, you win. Uncle, I give. Gave my notice, and they were shocked. Oh my God, Becky's leaving. Why are you leaving? And it was because the vision of the organization no longer lined up with my personal values. So it was time for me to depart. But in making that departure and being obedient, this is my testimony. In 1 year, I started my company, MVP Work. 3 months later, I started a nonprofit organization called Leading in High Heels. Women, I love shoes, just in case y'all don't know. So I want to take my love of shoes and my love of leadership to help women of domestic violence and abuse, is what Leading in High Heels does. Thank you. The first book I wrote was called The Leadership Transformation Blueprint, Stop Training and Start Transforming. Then I wrote the workbook to go along with the book. Then I wrote a book called Help Yourself, how we can help ourselves, but I don't know how. Well, no, you can help yourself. There are too many free resources out there, too many things being offered, whether it's webinars, podcasts, coaching. There's too much offer for you not to be able to help yourself to change your life. Then I wrote an ebook called 10 Things Managers Should Know That Employees Hate. And I bet all y'all hate those 10 things in there too, just like I did. And then I wrote a book called The P Factor. If you want productivity, promotions, and profit, make people and purpose a priority. Is the P Factor. Then I did a DVD, and I did a CD, and then I just wrote No Limits, Living Your Dreams in Reality. Transform Squared is this is Ignite. Transform Squared is my event transforming you personally and professionally. Jesus Air is the brand that God birthed in me in June of this year. 2 months later, I launched that business. Jesus Air is just a Christian apparel that helped teach us how to disciple and help other people to be better and bringing in more people into the kingdom. And then God opened up another door and gave me the Jesus Air radio show, where I do every Tuesday at 10 o'clock, the Jesus Air radio show, where we continue to help people. In 1 year, this happened.